Good morning.
Yesterday, when we ended, we were at the point in time on June 4th, late afternoon, early evening hours, when you were about ready to depart. You were telling us before you departed, you were going to, or you and Mr. Alexander had decided to engage in this photo shoot, you called it, right?
Yes.
And this was to take place in his bathroom, right?
Yes.
Okay. Why was the shower area selected?
It was selected for the water. We were going for a certain effect with the pictures and the water.
Okay. When you were in the bathroom, you took these pictures with Mr. Alexander's camera you were telling us yesterday, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And where was your, refresh our memory, where was your luggage and your items, your personal items, when you were doing this photo shoot?
Well, I think my camera had been put away. I didn't really even bring it out for that part of the trip. So I don't recall specifically, but I think most of my stuff was in the car at that point, maybe except my purse.
Okay. When you were in the bathroom, did you have a gun with you?
No.
Were you holding on to a knife?
No.
Okay. So we saw the pictures of him in the shower. Tell us what happens once he gets in the shower.
I'm taking pictures of him. We were trying out different poses. We were
Are you
kind of
communicating? Is it
yeah, we were kind of
friendly?
laughing.
Okay.
It was, I don't know, it was a little weird because the background wasn't that great, but the water was okay. And we were trying out different poses, and then we were checking the photos and deleting them, and then taking a few more and checking them and going through them and deleting them. And at one point, he was sitting, and I was taking pictures. I was probably a few feet from the shower so that the water didn't get on the camera. And I was showing him the photos, and we were deleting some. And at one point, when I went to delete the photos, as I moved the camera, it slipped out of my hand. And it didn't like fall right away. I kind of caught it, and then I caught it like a football, like it bounced, and I almost caught it. But it didn't catch it, and it landed on the mat, and then it rolled onto the tile. And
where were you when this took place relative to the shower?
I was crouched by the shower. I might have been on the mat or on the edge of the mat.
Okay. So what happens after you drop the camera?
At that point, Travis flipped out again, and he stood up, and he stepped out of the shower, and he picked me up. I was crouching, but he lifted me up as he was screaming that I was a stupid idiot, and he body slammed me again on the tile. He told me that 5-year-old can hold a camera better than I can. As he was screaming at me, there was spit coming out, or maybe it was water, but I was getting wet, and when I hit the tile, I rolled over on the side and started running down the hallway. And I don't know why I didn't run out of the room. I ran into the closet because the door was open, was my thought. The last time I ran down the hallway, he caught me before I got to the door, and that was another incident in the summer. So I guess I went into the closet. And
What do you mean? Let's talk about that. What do you mean this summer incident? What incident were you referring to?
There was an incident where he was really upset. The whole incident?
Well, yeah, what happened?
The previous summer in August 2007, I got hired at P.F. Chang's to work, and they needed my social security card, which I didn't keep in my purse because for security reasons, it was packed away. And I was looking everywhere for it, couldn't find it, so I assumed it was in one of the boxes that were in Travis's garage. So I called him. I needed the card for the next day for work. After I'd been looking for it, I wanted to come over and look for it there. He said, sure. It was a brief phone call. It was about 11 o'clock at night. And he sounded sleepy, so I thought maybe he was sleeping. I came over. I went to the side, of course, to go into the garage to look for the box. But this time, instead of going into the garage, the door was locked, which was unusual because it's almost always open. So I think, no big deal. I start walking around the back of the house toward the sliding glass door, which is never locked because he had installed a doggy door. So the sliding glass door butts up to it, but it doesn't lock. So as I was walking around the house, the blinds to the living room were open, and I could see this blue glow coming out of the window from the TV. And I was walking toward the glass, and I glanced in, and I noticed two people making out on the couch. And I stopped for a second because I thought that was awkward. And I assumed it was one of his roommates. So I thought, how would I handle that? You know, I thought maybe I'll just walk in real quick and say sorry, and just because I would have to walk past them to get to the garage because it was on the couch. They were on the couch. So I decided I would do that. And then as I was going toward the glass, she stood up and she rehooked her bra, and the guy stood up wiping his mouth, and I saw it was Travis. So we weren't together at this point, and I knew that there were other people that he was seeing or that I was maybe seeing, but it kind of still hurt. So I ran. I didn't go get my social security card. I just left, and I went home, and it was too late to call anybody really. So I just waited till the next day to call my sister, my little sister, but she wasn't home. She lived with my parents at that time. My dad answered, and I told him what happened because he was somebody to talk to. I didn't confide in him often, and he was asking me why I was crying. And so I just told him what happened. And so at that point I decided I'm just going to go over there and ask him if he's dating someone. That way I can move on or something. So I went over to his house, and I went into the house, and he was in the laundry room stenciling stripes down the walls, getting ready to paint them. And I hopped up on the washing machine and sat there, and he came down on the ladder and he gave me a kiss, and I just said it flat out. I said, if you're dating someone, it's okay, you can tell me. And I told him, based on what he had said about Deanna in the past, I said, I won't freak out the way Deanna does, because he had said that about her. And he just thought that was a strange question, and he said, why are you asking me?
How does this, without saying what was said, you mentioned that this correlated to the incident on June 4th. Were you in the upstairs area with Travis after this argument about seeing him with another girl? Yeah,
he just let out a real frustrated scream, and he walked out of the laundry room and palmed the wall really hard with his palm. I mean, not the wall, the door frame of the laundry room, and just went upstairs, and I sat there kind of stunned. I'd only seen his temper a few times at that point. And I heard this thud, this banging, like rhythmic over and over and over, like just, it was dull, and something was like hitting something over and over and over. So I jumped off the washing machine to see what it was, because he was the only one home. So I went upstairs, went into the bedroom. It was getting louder as I got toward the bedroom, and then I turned to look down the hallway, and he's banging his head repeatedly on the linen door closet. And it was awful to watch him do that, and I walked up to him sort of tentatively because he looked unstable, and he was mumbling something under his breath, and he kept saying...
Okay, just I mean, you mentioned, did you have to run away from him that day?
I finally said his name to get his attention, and he screamed "what" really loud, and he spun and looked at me like a madman, and it freaked me out. So I ran down the hall thinking I would just get out of the bedroom, but he caught me right as I reached the threshold of the bedroom. Right when I reached the carpet, he caught my wrist and pulled me back, and I was freaking out. Then he calmed down, and he explained to me that she was just a girl that he met in Phoenix, and they probably wouldn't see each other again.
Okay. Moving back to June 4th, before we continue on the story, I want to talk to you about a couple of exhibits. The first being Exhibit 160. You see that? You look at that? Was that a picture that you intentionally took?
No, it wasn't intentional.
Okay.
It got deleted.
Looking at Exhibit 161. Was this a picture you intentionally took?
No, I didn't take that one.
Showing you exhibit number 159. To your recollection, is that the last picture you intentionally took of Travis Alexander?
I took it intentionally. I don't know what order they went in.
Okay. When he slams you down onto the ground, after you drop the camera, how do you feel?
I was scared. I was thinking, crap, because it's everything that I was trying to avoid downstairs when he started getting mad. I was doing everything I could to avoid that, and I still didn't avoid it. I still screwed it up, and now he's pissed again. So he's freaking out. I'm freaking out. I rolled, like I said, I rolled off to my left and began to run down the hallway, and I could hear him follow. I could hear his footsteps chasing me.
Were you scared when he was chasing you?
Yeah, I didn't want him to grab me again.
What were you scared that he would do?
Who knows? At that point, he had already almost killed me. I wasn't thinking when he almost killed me before that I was going to possibly die. I was just thinking I couldn't breathe. No air. That's all I could think of before I passed out. But it was later on that I realized that I could have died if he just held on to my neck a little longer. So I didn't want that to happen, obviously. So I ran into the closet and I slammed the door, and I intended to run through the opposite end of the door because it has another exit. And as soon as I got in there and began to run, I remembered where he kept a gun. So I grabbed it. I jumped up on the shelf, kept it on the very top. I grabbed it. And then I ran out the other door as he was opening the door. And he ran, chasing me. And I turned around and pointed it at him so that he would stop chasing me.
Jodi, I want to show you what's been marked as exhibit number 70. Do you recognize that area?
Yes.
What is that?
His closet.
You said that you grabbed the gun from the closet, can you point to us where the gun was?
It's not shown in this picture, but it's at the very top of the shelf, up like right here.
Okay, let me
But
show
it's
you.
above that.
Let me show you then what's been entered as Exhibit 69. Does this show the area from which you grabbed the gun?
Yes.
Could you point to that for us, Jodi?
It was up here in the corner, kind of up, right up there.
Okay. You told us that you knew the gun was there. How did you know that?
I had known he had it. I found it one day when he used to give me projects when I would clean. Sometimes it was the floorboards, sometimes it was the light fixtures, and this day it was the closet shelves. I had to pull everything off the shelves and dust it all. So I got onto the top shelf. There was, I don't know if it was shown in that picture, but there's also a seat. So I moved the seat around to stand on it to get up there, and it was up there.
Okay. So you told us that you grabbed the gun and got out through the closet, correct?
Yes.
I want to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 162. Jodi, how do we look at that picture, please? How do we get to that point in time? What happened between the time you grabbed the gun? and
I don't
what
know
we
how
see?
that picture was taken.
I'm not asking you how the picture was taken. I'm asking you what happened at that, in between the time you grabbed the gun and what we see here. What happened?
When I grabbed the gun, I ran out of the closet. He was chasing me. I turned around and we were in the middle of the bathroom. I pointed it at him with both of my hands. I thought that would stop him. If someone were pointing a gun at me, I would stop. But he just kept running. He got like a linebacker. He got kind of low and grabbed my waist. But before he did that, as he was lunging at me, the gun went off. I didn't mean to shoot him or anything. I didn't even think I was holding the trigger. I just was pointing it at him. And I didn't even know that I shot him. It just went off, and he lunged at me, and we fell really hard against the tile toward the other wall, like kind of near the scales or whatever those things are. So at this point, I didn't even know that if he had been shot. I didn't see anything different. We were struggling and wrestling, and he's a wrestler. He had wrestled in high school, and he was getting on top of me. And I didn't want him to get on top of me because when he had done that in the past, I can't get out of those holds that he gets. So he's grabbing at my clothes, and I got up, and he's just screaming angry. And after I broke away from him, he said, "Fucking kill you, bitch." And
Before he lunged at you, was he yelling at you and threatening you? To your recollection?
well, he
When he
was
was
chasing me, and he was pissed off.
Okay. Do you remember him yelling or saying anything?
He was calling me names because I dropped his camera.
Okay. Do you remember what those were?
Well, I remember him calling me a fucking idiot. And I remember him telling me that a 5-year-old can hold a camera better than me.
Do you remember saying anything to him as he lunged at you?
I don't think so. I was crying and running, and I pointed it at him, assuming that he would get the idea that to stop. He wouldn't stop.
What do you mean he wouldn't stop?
Well, after the gun went off, I thought, oh, crap, because now he's really going to be pissed. I didn't know that I shot him. I thought I shot a hole in the wall or something, and I'm thinking he's really going to be pissed at me now. So now he's telling me he's going to kill me, and I think after he said that, he had almost killed me before, and
And what?
there's a lot of that day that I don't remember. There are a lot of gaps. I don't remember the poses of the pictures. I remember them now that I've seen the pictures, but I didn't remember them until I saw them. I remember taking pictures. I just don't remember the pictures themselves, even though we looked at them. And now I see them, I remember them.
Well, let me ask you this, getting us back to that moment in time, not the poses, anything else. You've told us that he said, "Kill you, bitch," and you were underneath him trying to get away.
He said that right after I broke away from him.
Okay, right after you broke away from him. Once you broke away from him, what do you remember?
Almost nothing for a long time. There are some things that have come back over years, but nothing. I don't know if those are things that I'm thinking of from before, or if it's that day. It's confusing. There is like a huge gap. Like, I don't know if I blacked out or what. There's a huge gap, and the most clear memory that I have after that point is driving in the desert. But there are certain little things that have come back, like pictures in my mind that have come back since then.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you remember stabbing Travis Alexander?
I have no memory of stabbing him.
Do you remember, as we see here in Exhibit 162, do you remember dragging him across the floor?
Oh. I just remember trying to get away from him.
Showing you Exhibit 73. Do you remember placing him in the shower?
I'm sorry, that's no.
You told us that after running away from him, you don't have any clear memories of what happened after that until hours later, right?
I have a few memories, but nothing super clear.
Okay, tell us about those memories.
I have a vague memory of putting the knife in the dishwasher, but I've put the knife in the dishwasher before, so I'm pretty sure it was that day.
Do you know where you got the knife from?
It was upstairs.
Okay. Are you assuming that, or do you remember that?
I'm assuming that. It hadn't been moved since he cut the rope.
What's that?
I don't think it had been touched by either of us since he used it to cut the rope.
What else do you remember from after the time that you crawled out from underneath him?
I remember I was in the bathroom. I remember dropping the knife, and it clanged to the tile. It made a big noise. And I just remember screaming. I don't remember anything after that. Not immediately.
Do you remember where he was when you were screaming?
I think he was next to me on the floor. I don't know.
Do you know where you were?
I was in the bathroom.
What else do you remember?
Not much.
Not much mean nothing?
I remember more the feeling of that time, not pictures and things that I can bring back.
Tell us about the feeling.
It was like mortal terror. It was like I pissed him off the worst I'd ever seen him pissed off. And then I tried to stop him, and then I pissed him off even more. And I thought, shit, I'd really, really pissed him off. And he was angry at me, and he wasn't going to stop.
What do you mean by he wasn't going to stop?
He wasn't going to stop. He wasn't stopping. He was.
When you say he wasn't going to stop, did you fear that he was going to kill you?
For sure. When he said, kill you, yes. He'd almost killed me before, and now he was saying he was going to.
So when he said that to you, you believed him because of past incidents.
Objection, lady.
Same rephrase.
Why did you believe him when he said, kill you, bitch?
Because he'd never said that before, and he'd taken me almost to that point without that threat, and now he was clearly making that threat.
You told us your last memory in Travis's bathroom was sitting on the bathroom floor screaming.
I don't know if I was sitting or what. I just remember dropping it.
Okay. Dropping the knife?
Yes. I remember what was going through my head. I don't remember anything else after that.
What was going through your head?
That I just couldn't believe what had happened, that I couldn't take anything back, what had just happened. And it was like, I couldn't rewind the clock.
Did you realize all that had happened?
I don't know about all, but I just remember dropping the knife and being very freaked out and screaming.
After remembering that feeling and dropping the knife in the bathroom, and some of the other memories you've shared with us, what is the next point in time for which you have a memory?
From which that I remember?
Mm-hmm.
I remember driving. I thought I was driving west because I remember the sun was in my eyes for a while. I didn't know where I was going. I didn't have my GPS anymore. I hit a lot of stoplights, so I don't know that I was on a freeway. I hit a lot of stoplights. And then eventually I was in the desert. I don't know where. It got dark.
So you don't remember really even driving, other than what you told us?
Well, that was the first more or less clear memory after.
Okay. Did you have thoughts about what happened?
Yes.
At that point in time, when you were pulling away and driving away, did you have the gun with you?
I don't remember bringing the gun with me, but I remember throwing it.
Throwing it where?
In the desert.
Okay. What about the rope he had tied you up with? Did you take that with you?
Yes.
And do you remember what you did with that?
Eventually it went into a dumpster.
Where?
It was behind a gas station. I think it was somewhere after St. George. I don't remember. It was getting light out, wherever I was parked at that point.
Do you remember? Well, let me ask you this. When you were driving, was there blood on you?
Yes. There was, when I finally came to, I saw there was blood on my hands. And I didn't have my shoes. I didn't know where my shoes were. I was in the middle of nowhere, so I pulled over. And I got out of my car. I was really thirsty. So I had a case of water from Costco in the trunk. So I got some water, a water bottle. I rinsed my hands off with it as well. I got mother shoes. I had business shoes for the prepaid thing, and I got those on.
When you do this, you have the water, you're cleaning the blood off yourself. And did you stop and clean yourself up before you disposed of the weapons or after you disposed of the weapons? Or is it all one stop?
Well, I don't remember what happened to the knife, so it wasn't in the car with me. The gun was when I stopped. And the rope was after that. Another stop.
When you got to this point in time then, did you do so with the full realization of what had happened in the bathroom?
I don't know how full my realization was, but I knew that it was really bad, and that my life was probably done now.
At this point in time, did you believe that Mr. Alexander was dead?
I believed that, but because I didn't have any clear memory of...
She believed whether he was alive or dead.
Restate your question.
Explain to us if you believed Mr. Alexander was alive or dead. Let me just ask you this, yes or no, did you believe he was alive?
I didn't know, but I didn't think he was, because I didn't know. I thought he was not alive at that point.
Was there a part of you that hoped he was?
Yes. Of course.
What's that?
I said yes, of course.
What do you mean, of course?
I wish that it was just a nightmare that I could wake up from. And then just find out that everything was still the same way.
Did you still love him?
Yeah, I did.
Do you still love him now?
Yeah, it's a different love, but yes, I do.
Now, after you have cleaned yourself up and you disposed of the gun and the rope, what do you do next?
I started looking around for the charger that I thought I left because Matt hadn't answered his phone and told me it was there. And I started cleaning out the car, and it was under the seat of the passenger side. So I plugged it in. I turned on my phone. There was no reception. As I began to drive, some reception came, like one little bar, and then two, and then one, and then none. And I think I had voicemails. I kept trying to check them, but the reception wasn't strong enough to complete a call. So I don't know if I had text messages or not, but I text.
Why are you interested in your voicemails at this point in time?
Well, I realized at that point that a lot of time had lapsed and that people would probably be wondering where I was. I realized that it was irresponsible of me to just hang out with Travis, but he always was the priority whenever we got together, and so all my other responsibilities just went to the back burner. So at this point I thought, well, Ryan was expecting me, Leslie was expecting me, all these people are expecting me. I don't even know which way I'm going at this point. I don't even know what I'm going to tell them. Maybe I'll say I got lost. I don't know. I'm thinking of all these things. So I finally get to this sign that's where it says Las Vegas is like 100 miles away. So I thought, okay. I had an idea sort of where I was at this point. And then I came upon the Hoover Dam, and there was a checkpoint there. I had to stop, and then they let me go through it. And on the other side of the Hoover Dam, I stopped again and pulled over. And at this point, I realized I was in really deep trouble. And I started thinking of what I could do to delay the inevitable.
Well, let me ask you about that. Your phone was working then? It begets the question, why not just dial 911 and tell them what happened?
I was scared, and I couldn't imagine calling 911 and telling them what I had just done.
Why not?
Well, I was scared of what would happen to me. I was scared of a lot of things. I was thinking of all kinds of things. My family, myself, what would happen. I was thinking of having to explain that.
Having to explain what?
How the day ended up unfolding. I was just really scared. I was actually very scared going through the checkpoint too. I thought, oh my gosh, they're gonna pull me over and this is it.
Well, you talked about, you said that the people expecting you to be in Utah, Ryan and Leslie, and you mentioned delaying the inevitable. What did you mean by delaying the inevitable?
I knew I'd messed up pretty badly and that the inevitable was going to be that it's not something that I could really run from.
You said that you messed up pretty badly, but he attacked you. Why did you feel like you messed up pretty badly?
He attacked me, but I don't know, I didn't look at it like that. He had attacked me in the past and nothing happened. Nothing like this.
But it was different this time, wasn't it?
It was different. It was heightened.
Okay. So you felt a sense of remorse about what happened?
Of course, I wanted to rewind the clock and just...
And what?
So that never had happened. I was thinking at the time, the camera, if I wouldn't have dropped the camera, but I realized there were probably other steps that could have been taken. Even though he got really mad, and even though he threatened to kill me, maybe I'd have run left instead of right.
So you're regretting not taking alternative steps, right? Is that correct?
Sustained. Rephrase.
You were you angry at yourself?
I was feeling a whole lot of emotions. Mostly I was very scared. And I was very upset. And I was very... I don't know, it's hard to explain because I just wanted to die.
Did you contemplate killing yourself at that point in time?
Not that very moment, but yeah, I did it thereafter.
Okay. Well, let's stay in that moment for now. Talk about delaying the inevitable and how you can't run from this. People are waiting for you. What do you decide to do?
I knew that my life was pretty much over, but I didn't want anyone to know that had happened or that I did it. So I started taking steps or what I could do in the aftermath of it to try to cover up that I was there. So I did a whole bunch of things to try and make it seem like I wasn't ever there.
Do you remember what those things were?
Yeah, when I pulled over at the Hoover Dam, I thought of, well, I had called Ryan at that point, and Leslie said we called Travis because we thought maybe he would know where you were, because we know that he still talks to you. And so then she said, I've left a voicemail, and I thought, oh, okay, so they're gonna find his voicemail. Maybe I should leave a voicemail. So I called his phone to leave a voicemail. I didn't really know what I was gonna say. I just thought, at this point I told Ryan I got lost, and I told Leslie the same thing. And his voicemail picked up, and I started trying to say that too. But I was crying, and I was trying to make it to sound cheery, but I was crying, and so I would hit pound, and I would listen to that message, and it didn't sound right. So I would delete it, and I would try again, and that one, then I started crying in the message, and that one didn't sound right, so I deleted it. And I would try again, and then I was talking too fast in this one, or I started crying in that one, so finally I'm frustrated that this call is a long time, and I hit pound again. I erased the message by hitting 3, and then I started recording it again, and then I listened to it that time, and I was like, okay, it's good enough, I'm going to leave that, and so I had that message sent.
So this was your effort to try to act as if you weren't present in Mr. Alexander's home on June 4th?
Yeah, I figured that eventually his voicemails are going to be listened to, and I thought that'll just, throw the scent off for a little while, so to speak.
Okay. So after you make these calls to Mr. Burns, Miss Jodi, and Mr. Alexander's voicemail, what do you do next?
Kept driving past Vegas.
Where were you intending to go?
I realized that in order to keep up that pretense, I had to keep part of the schedule that I was sticking to. So my intention was to show up in Utah, make an appearance, and go home.
Okay. And showing up in Utah, was that for the business meeting that we had heard about earlier?
Yeah, whatever was going on that day. It would have been a briefing, I think. That's what I went to.
The overall intent of going to Utah was to spend time and get to know Ryan Burns, right?
That was the whole purpose for the trip, initially. Okay. That and to see places on the list and for my photography.
All right. So when you were driving from the Vegas area to Utah, did you contemplate what sort of behavior Mr. Burns was expecting out of you when you got there?
Yes, I was contemplating what kind of behavior anyone would expect out of me, which would just be the same me, or normal, or trying to act like my same happy-go-lucky self that I tried to always be.
So, as it relates to, and I'm going to ask about just a couple of people because we've seen them throughout the course of this trial, how did you try to act in front of Leslie Udy that would be quote unquote normal?
Just positive, not emotional.
Okay. And what about Ryan Burns? You'd exchanged flirtatious text messages with him. Heard about this being a budding romantic relationship, at least from his perspective. What did you feel like acting normal would mean with Mr. Burns?
I didn't know, just hanging out and trying to act like, oh, I just got lost, you know. And I'm kind of dingy anyway, because when I did, everyone thought, oh, that's just Jodi. So I thought, okay, that's good.
Objection. She's non-responsive as to what Mr. Ryan Burns expected.
She's explaining why in her behavior, Judge.
Overruled. You may continue.
So I don't remember what I was saying. I just was trying to act like myself. And
Well, what did that mean with Mr. Burns? Did you contemplate what expectations he might have based on your previous dialogue?
Yeah, I did, I guess. He didn't expect sex or anything like that.
Objection, speculation.
Sustained.
In your opinion, when you were contemplating what he would expect out of you, was sexual intercourse something that you thought he would be expecting from you?
No, it's not anything we discussed.
Was physical contact of a sexual nature something that you thought that he might be expecting?
No. I don't know about what you mean by sexual.
Well, let me ask you this then. I'll put it more directly. Do you think, in your efforts to appear normal, do you think that he might have been expecting the two of you to kiss?
Objection. Speculation as to, again, what he might have expected.
It goes to her perception. I'm not asking his. I'm asking hers.
All right. With that understanding, overruled. You may answer.
Yes.
Did you feel as if he had the expectation that this time together would be romantic or romantic?
I don't know how romantic. I just was going with the idea that we would just hang out and have fun and get to know each other and see if there was any spark there or not.
When you were in Utah, did you kiss Mr. Burns?
Eventually we kissed.
Did you cuddle with Mr. Burns?
Yes, I went to sleep.
Why?
Why did I go to sleep?
No. Why did you kiss and cuddle with Mr. Burns?
Well, I showed up at his house. He had given me directions there. We were hanging out, watching a movie. I was laying on, I don't know if it was a couch or a bed or what, or a love sack, I can't remember. It was just furniture in his room. And we were watching some, scary movie, I guess. And he was laying next to me. We weren't, really touching, but we were kind of laying next to each other. And I don't know, I felt safe right there, and I figured, if I don't kiss him at all, I don't know, I guess I just wanted to seem normal. I wanted to seem like I was okay, like things were okay, like I didn't just do it, I just did.
And that was a pretense you kept up for about a day or so with Mr. Burns?
I think I went to, not even that. I had gone to the restaurant earlier with him, or I followed him there. I went to the business briefing, and then I needed to get on the road. It was Thursday night. I had to work on Friday. But I don't know, I just needed to get home. So I went back to his house. We set the alarm, and I think I slept for 2 or 3 hours, and then I got back on the road.
You mentioned going to the briefing and the restaurant and driving around with Mr. Burns. Do you recall hearing the testimony of Officer Galletti?
Yes.
And he had pulled you over for your license plate being upside down. Do you recall that happening?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I remember that.
Okay. Did you put your license plate upside down?
No.
Do you have any idea as to how that happened?
I had told Ryan that
Objection, hearsay, speculation.
Approach.
Let me ask you, before Officer Galletti pulled you over, did you know that your license plate was upside down?
no, I did not.
Do you have any reason to suspect how your license plate might have got upside down?
I could only think of 2 things. One, I rented it that way and didn't notice it. Or 2, when I'd stopped at Starbucks in Pasadena. When I was walking toward my car, the parking lot was packed. It was dark though. Obviously the parking lot lights were on. As I was walking toward my car, there were some skaters, young kids that were skating. They were kind of snickering and skating away from the car. And I didn't think anything of it. But as I got into the car and began to back out of the parking space, my headlights hit something bright, and I realized it was reflective. So I got out just to check what it was, and it was a license plate, and mine was just removed. The license plate had bugs all over it, and the car that I just rented had bugs all over the grill except where the license plate was. So I just said, "Oh, this is my license plate."
Let's clarify here, because just to be clear, are you talking about this license plate you saw, one that was on the front of the car or the back of the car?
It was on the front.
Okay. So your rental car had 2 license plates, to your recollection?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. All right. So at that point in time, did you notice your rear license plate being upside down?
No, it didn't occur to me to check it.
Okay. And when or after Officer Galletti pulled you over for having the license plate upside down, did you yourself have the tools necessary to correct that problem?
No, I didn't. I was going to ask the owner of the restaurant if he had a screwdriver. So then Ryan, I guess, did it for me. I didn't have any of that to do.
Okay. After you said you slept a few hours at Mr. Burns, his residence, before you got back on the road to Wairika, did you kiss him that morning before you left as well?
Yeah, we kissed goodbye. We had fallen asleep on the love sack, and we woke up with when my phone went off with the alarm. And yeah, we kissed.
Okay.
I mean, we weren't like making out, not like he said, but yeah.
Okay. So, after you leave Mr. Burns' house, you're still in your rental car, correct? I mean, you're driving your rental car back to Wairika?
Yes, it was.
Okay. And this would have been a day and a half later that you're returning to Wairika, right?
I was driving back early Friday morning, hoping to make it on time to Wairika for my shift at 4 o'clock.
Because you were expected there, right?
I was expected there, and nobody. It's a small restaurant. There's nobody else that would. I don't know.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. What was the plan? What were you going to do? What were you going to say?
When
you went back home?
I didn't have a plan. I just wanted to go home. I wanted to go home and act as normal as I could. For the time being, I didn't know what to think. I just wanted to die.
You said you wanted to die. Did you contemplate killing yourself on your return to Wairika?
Objection, Roberts.
Were you contemplating killing yourself as you were returning to Wairika?
I wasn't formulating plans to commit suicide on my return trip, but I did after that.
And I want to make sure we heard you correctly. You said you didn't formulate any plans on the way back home?
I wasn't thinking of it. I just wanted to die.
Okay. When you went to Utah and when you were going to go home back to Wairika, did you have injuries?
Yes.
What were those injuries?
I guess they were like scrapes and things all over my ankles. And I had cut myself downstairs the day before. Well, I guess it would have still been June 4th. Before we woke up, before we went to bed, I was getting water in the kitchen. I dropped one of his glasses and broke it. And he didn't get really mad, but he called me klutzy. So I was picking up the glass, and I cut myself with the glass. So I had that injury, but it was, I guess, unrelated. But when I pulled over in the car, when there was blood on my hands, it had reopened and it was bleeding a little bit. It was kind of, I don't know, it wasn't really a deep cut, but it was bleeding a little bit.
So, what did you, when you were in Utah, I should have asked earlier, when in Utah, did you formulate a excuse for this injury?
Yeah, I think I said I cut myself.
Okay. Any explanation how?
The week before, I cut myself really badly at work, so I think I just said, I'm a bartender, I cut myself. I think it was actually June 1st, I cut myself. And I remember that because the date was on the photo in my phone.
Okay. Did you get back home to Wairika?
Yes.
Do you get there on time for your shift?
I think if I was late, it wasn't very late. I was there.
Okay.
I think I was late that day, but I made it there.
Do you work the rest of your shift?
Yes.
At this point in time, had you seen any of your family members yet?
Probably my grandparents. I went home, I think, and changed into my work clothes real fast and drove over to the restaurant.
Okay. When you got home, what did you tell your family?
I didn't tell them anything.
Just tried to live as normal?
Basically, I tried to act like nothing had happened and just waited for the clock to tick down.
What clock are we talking about? To your arrest?
Yes, that clock.
You said you got back in early June and back to Wairika, and you were arrested in July. Did you ever contemplate or attempt suicide during that period of time?
Yes. Not attempted. I took steps to.
What were those steps?
I bought a gun.
When you say you bought a gun, where did you buy the gun?
It's called Don's Sporting Goods. It's on Minor Street in Wairika.
So you bought it at a sporting goods store. Did you need to get a license in California?
Yeah, California requires a 10-day background check and then for the gun to be registered.
Apart from buying the gun, did you take any other steps relating to killing yourself?
Yes, I began to prepare for, there were things that I didn't want to come out about Travis, or that I was participating in with him, and so I got rid of the clothes, the underwear, the boys' underwear. I got rid of that.
Is that the Spider-Man underwear?
Yeah,
Is that a yes, Jodi?
that's a yes. Sorry.
And what else did you do?
Do you mean to get ready to commit suicide?
Yeah.
I was going to leave the area so that, I mean, I was on the fence about suicide. I wanted to kill myself, but I also knew that if I don't kill myself, I'm going to get arrested, so it's one or the other. So I decided to move. I was going to move back to Monterey so that regardless of which one came first, it wouldn't have to be in Wairika.
Why didn't you want to be in Wairika when either of those two events took place?
I guess I just thought that it would be easier if I was not, easier for my family if it wasn't right in their backyard, so to speak.
Either alternative?
Yes.
Now, apart from buying a gun, though, we know that you had several phone conversations with Detective Flores when you lived in Wairika, didn't you?
Yes.
Those came to pass after you learned from other parties of Mr. Alexander's death. Is that correct? When did you make those phone calls?
I think I tried to call him on June 10th.
That was the first time you tried to speak with him?
Yeah, I left him a voicemail.
What prompted your call to Detective Flores on June 10th?
I think Leslie encouraged me to call them, call him.
Well, let me ask you this question. When were you informed that Mr. Alexander was dead?
Dan called me the night before.
Dan and who?
Dan called me and told me.
That's my response. She was asked Dan who.
Oh, Dan who?
Yes.
I'm sorry, Dan Freeman, Daniel Freeman. He didn't tell me that he died.
Objection, no question.
Sustained.
I'm sorry.
He told you that Travis died?
He did not.
What did he tell you?
Objection, Pearson.
It's excited utterance, Judge.
We're going to take the noon recess at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, please be back to the designated area 125. Please remember the admonition. You are excused.
Please stand for the jury.
Please be seated. The record will show the jury has left the courtroom. Ms. Arias, you may step down. Counsel, please approach.